And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport. And admittedly, folks, I am playing a little bit hurt. Okay. It's a whole thing coming back from a foreign country. Perhaps everybody remembers last week where Huddle Up Inc. did a fantastic job filling in. I have to admit, for all the guys that came on, the circus that was a 5-man crew, Jim's evil twin even jumped out of the woodwork, Bern's coming out of nowhere. Matt actually strung more than 2 words together, and EJ is still annoying. But listen, all the joking aside, there was a lot of TLC here for the student of the game, especially by host Jim Neese himself, going to the trouble of even dropping a class dismissed at the end of the show and finding the time to record the theme music and get that all to match. So thank you a ton for that. And all of you support all the above, and patience, of course, for some of the other networks as we dealt with, let's say, some technical issues trying to get elements of the feed. Sertova Media, A7BN Sports, Facebook, and the Student of the Game Twitch all posted a little bit later. But hey, this is what it is when you're doing the situation that are 7 hours ahead. But enough of that. The NFC East was touched on tonight. It's about the NFC West. Let's turn the page on that right quick, as the kids say. And it's funny. I think it's appropriate that a headline drops today that allegedly, well, not allegedly, I think it's actually confirmed, that the 49ers were looking at Bill Belichick as a coordinator. They basically said to him, as the story goes, hey, anything that's not the head coach is yours. Just jump aboard. Now, obviously, he eventually goes on to deny it because, or not deny it, but decline it, I should say. Because apparently, and this is me speculating, Bill Belichick is somebody who wants to buy the groceries as well as prepare the meal. And as we've come to learn, that Coach Belichick is a much better chef than he is a grocer. That's been a problem of late for the Patriots. That's why they went from empire to ruins. See, I'm making a reference to things that happened with the Greek buildings I was at. Anyways, with all that in mind, I don't, people are all up in arms. Ooh, I'm like, where's the story? Like, the thing I think that's the most ridiculous is when Jim Harbaugh was still the coach in San Francisco and Alex Smith was still the quarterback, they did a workout with Peyton Manning and everybody lost their damn minds. Why was that so bad? Why is this so bad? I don't think, I think this is less bad than the Manning thing, because whose ego would actually be hurt? Hey, this guy who's allegedly the GOAT's going to come in the building and help us. Cool. I mean, I don't know. And to put all of it together to where I sit, that's the kind of things that puts butts in seats, as well as potentially build your football team. And oh, by the way, if John Lynch in that front office had that conversation, well, there's ties to the Patriots in the past, right? It was almost this close that John Lynch retired a la Jerry Rice with the Bucks in the preseason, wearing a uniform for a team he never took a snap for, right? At one point, he was in talks with the Patriots to play one more year and then didn't. Fortunately, then he managed to keep enough brain cells to be a good GM for the Niners. I think that's a win. Maybe I'm a little selfish on that front. Matter of fact, I'm so selfish, I'm talking about a team I cover on a regular basis. But tonight, somebody magnanimous is coming on. As a Bengals fan, I've asked him to go to 3 different divisions in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Yes, that's right. He's coming back for more. God bless this guy. He's out of his mind. The Bern is in the building. What is going on? Fievel goes west is really your take? Really?
We're going west, boys. It's an American tale.
Oh,
Bernie, a.k.a. Fievel goes west.
Bernie goes west. I mean, if Bernie went west in last year's elections, maybe things would be. Oh gosh, wow. We're not talking.
Let's not make that turn.
There's so many. Listen, I almost felt like I had to come on and say something about the political landscape and stuff, but I opted to not do it. And well, that's a whole other question. Let's not approach that topic. But all I could say, America, is I left the country for 10 days and all hell breaks loose. Come on, people. Anyways, Mikey Bern, let's jump into it, man. We talked, we teased the Niners. We'll probably save them for later in the show. But let's start out with the Arizona Cardinals, man. And I'm going to ask the question similar to what I did on the AFC West. And there's a short about it you can probably see on the Huddle Up YouTube channel / Sertova Media YouTube channels. Bing! Yeah, I'm playing hurt. The bing's not going to happen. But with all that in mind, I mean, my first question is Kyler Murray. I can make an argument for Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe some support from Zay Jones. Give me something else to be excited about for this football team.
I don't know that I have anything necessarily.
You're right back to, oh, wait, now we're in trouble. Shoot. No. Great night. Let's move on. No, go ahead.
I mean, at this point, when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, there are questions throughout this entire team. Obviously, James Conner was good last year. The emergence of Trey McBride to make him a top probably 6 tight end, especially in fantasy football sports. But that guy was the most durable piece of that offense throughout the season last year. Out is Hollywood Brown. In is Marvin Harrison Jr., which obviously is going to be great.
I would argue that's an upgrade. I'll give him that much credit.
Yeah, absolutely. But there was a small decline. Joshua Dobbs out as the backup, in Desmond Ridder. Don't love that for Kyler Murray, who's been injury prone.
Got to tell you, I outright hate it, but that's okay.
I think it's awful, personally. But after Harrison and after Zay Jones, Greg Dortch is still there. They added Zach Pascal. Michael Wilson looks good. Trey McBride, obviously, who I mentioned. So the wide receiver room in itself looks better, but the problem is they still play in the NFC West.
The problem is the strongest part of the damn team.
Yeah. And looking at their defense, there ain't no names here that you're going to write home to mom about.
Mm-hmm.
Gone are the days of Patrick Peterson.
Well, sure. It's not like that group with Patrick Peterson, Honey Badger, and I mean those defenses with Darnell Dockett and Calais Campbell up front. Right, thing of the past. I do like their defensive backcourt. Tre'Davious White's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We got some younger guys who I think are exciting, but I mean you'd agree they're probably the best unit on the defense, right?
Yeah, with Buddha and Sean Murphy Bunting. That's probably the heart of that defense would be the secondary, because it definitely isn't the front 7. There's some holes there in that front 7. I've looked at this roster a couple times and it's not very deep. Honestly, I would expect if this team gets out of contention early, maybe a James Conner, maybe a Buda Baker gets moved for draft picks, if they can try to revamp this defense somewhere in the draft and in the offseason. Yeah, it's not good. The defense here, I think, is going to be the long-term issue for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, obviously, the long-term health of Kyler Murray is the biggest issue that I see, because he just hasn't been able to get over the hump and play a full year. He looked better at the tail end of last year, coming back from the injury. But at this point, they still play in the NFC West. They're still going to play a really, 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 really good 49ers defense. They're going to play a very hard-hitting Seattle Seahawks defense.
Did you keep counts of how many reallys were there?
I think that was like 6, 7, maybe. I don't know. I lost count. So I think injury in the NFC West is almost a foregone conclusion, as a quarterback in the AFC North is going to miss time because of injury, because of one of those 4 defenses absolutely mauling them. Looking at you, Deshaun Watson.
No.
But when you look at Arizona, I think there are improvements. The wide receiver room, I think, has gotten better. I just don't know that the offensive line has gotten that much better. And I think that's an issue. I know they added Jonah Williams, former Bengal, Houday.
But no wonder you're bringing him up. Yeah.
So I mean, but I don't necessarily know that adding one piece is going to change the fact that this offensive line made Kyler Murray run for his life more times than he did a 360 no scope in Call of Duty.
Yeah, well, jeez. Well, I don't, and there are still questions about Kyler and his ability to, let's just say, do something other than run. I guess he's electric. Everybody likes him, as what his, I'm going to say, max potential, like his ceiling could be. I get all that, but for me, I'm not any more convinced than you are, for the record. I don't know, but you know what? Let's go ahead and get out of the way. I mentioned for the record. Why don't you tell me the record that you have for the Arizona Cardinals this year?
All right, so their schedule has some give me's in it. I feel. I think they beat the Chargers. I think they beat the Bears.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I think they roll 2 in a row against New England and Carolina. I'm at 5, somewhere between 5 and 6 wins for this team. Maybe a split with Seattle. Maybe they split the home games. I don't see them going into LA or San Francisco and beating either of those teams. And I don't necessarily think they have much of a chance to beat them at home.
Right.
Playing Washington early in the season, that's a possibility depending on how Jaden Daniels is playing. But then they still have Detroit at home. They got to go to Green Bay. Maybe that Minnesota game, week 13, if JJ McCarthy is struggling, but I don't necessarily know that I think that's going to happen. So I'm in
that bad is the question.
I just don't love a lot of what they have in front of them this year.
Yeah, no, I hear all that. I appreciate your optimism. I have them 4-13, 2-4 in the division. One of those games being against the 49ers, hosting the 49ers. I know where you're going, but Kyle, how on earth could they pull that off? By then, the Niners are sitting people. So it's.
I was going to say week 18 or a potential trap game.
Listen, ain't no trap that effective. I don't give a damn where Admiral Akbar is. Okay, no, it's just the fact that I think that the Niners will have the opportunity, I think, to have at least the division wrapped up. The seeding may betray me. They may be competing with a team. A lot of you guys last week seemed pretty sold on the Eagles, for example. They may be competing with the Eagles again. The Niners 4 seeding. There's still a lot of growth in this conference that needs to happen, I think, though there are some compelling teams making an interesting case. The Lions, for example. I don't think the Bears are doing enough to turn around that much to be that high, but I've already said in a lot of spaces they intrigue me. Obviously, we've not done the NFC North episode yet. That's coming soon. But, yeah, I mean, that's where I have the Cardinals, and it's a shame because they have a quarterback that is alleged to be pretty solid, but the protection isn't figured out, and whether that's the fault of the quarterback not being developed enough or the talent on the line or both is going to be the question. This franchise needs a reboot. The long gone are the days of Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, D'Amico Ryans, and AJ Green are not walking all to be your receiver core into this building again with Zach Ertz at tight end. One makes me wonder if mortgaging all that was a problem to get that in the room, but what do I know? Oh, by the way, your QB's injury prone. Anyways, speaking of injury concerns, I think that's a solid transition to get into the Rams. Listen, man, it's not that I don't think this team doesn't have some places where they're impressive. Obviously, I can make a strong argument they have the best 1-2 punch at receiver in the damn league. No disrespect, Bengals fans. But John Matthew Stafford, man, he's on borrowed time already, man. And for as much as we talk about Odell Beckham's Jr. injury being a big part of that Super Bowl, the luckiest thing was John Matthew Stafford staying healthy in that beast, because we've seen him go in and out. I think you were with me the year after the Super Bowl. We were pretty much sure by the end of camp his arm would fall off. That hasn't happened yet. But I mean, it's that basically the two questions for me and for this team are John Matthew Stafford and Aaron Charles Donald. And listen, they got 3-name treatment. Not necessarily because I think Stafford is great like that, but his real first name is John, and I want people to know that. But like, give me something else I'm missing that might be an uplift for this franchise.
The emergence of Kyron Williams.
Hmm.
Last year it was, this is going to be Cam Akers' backfield. That lasted all of about a week and a half, and then they shipped him to Minnesota, where running backs go to die. Kyron Williams last year was explosive. He was great out of the backfield. They added Boston Scott, another good pass catching back, formerly of Philadelphia. Honestly, the big thing here is we've mentioned the long-term health of Matthew. Life, if Matthew Stafford goes down, looks to be either Jimmy Garoppolo or Stetson Bennett, who was out all of last year on the inactive list as he was dealing with some off the field problems.
I'll say this: Stetson Bennett, it could be a kind of quarterback if he comes in that could surprise, because he's older than most. Now, granted, off the field issues is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser. I get it. But he's older than most guys. He's got more time, kind of like Brock Purdy. No, I'm not comparing them. And he's got 2 fantastic receivers that could provide that adequate support. Is the protection there? I don't know. But Stetson Bennett intrigues me. Jimmy G, he's an old commodity at this point. If time, it's only a matter of time. Go ahead.
I think Bennett actually plays a similar style to Matthew Stafford.
That's what I'm getting at.
So I think the transition, if Matt is to miss any time, I think Stetson fits that role a little bit better. Obviously, Garoppolo's out the first, I think, 4 games of the season with his suspension.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
He is suspended. Yeah, so obviously it looks like it's going to be Stetson Bennett behind Matthew Stafford, the way the depth chart looks right now. According to ESPN, it's technically Garoppolo 2, but it's Bennett 3, and then Dresser Wynn is the 4th string. But I think looking at this right now, the big question here is the elephant in the room, and it's life after Aaron Donald. Because that defense went from being one of, if not the most scary defense not named the San Francisco 49ers to being what feels like middle of the road defense right now. Tre'Davious White is there. That's good. Jared Verse, their first round pick, coming in to play the linebacker position. That's good. But that front 3 just lost all of its might and all of its power, because that guy single-handedly willed them to that Super Bowl. And I will tell you that to anybody in their face. Matt Stafford played a good game. But if Aaron Donald doesn't one-arm choke slam Joe Burrow with about a minute left, clearly T. Higgins is gone.
Yeah, clearly the MVP of that Super Bowl. Thanks for bringing up that scab. Jeez.
You're welcome. Because if not, there was a Bengal wide receiver with nobody around him for about 30 yards that could have walked into the end zone and won Cincinnati the Super Bowl. But that's the Aaron Donald effect. Aaron Donald is that guy, and you're not going to replace that.
No, not immediately. By the way, I love the fact that we talk about the Super Bowl your Bengals lost, but found a way for me to be able to gripe about a scar. That's talent, Mike Bern.
You're welcome.
No,
I mean, I think looking at this team, they're going to have to rely on Kyron Williams more this year. Cooper Kupp, full year off of the ACL. Pookie Baby looked good at the beginning of the year. Puka Nacua. Hopefully he can keep that up. Tutu Atwell and DeMarcus Robinson. But here's the thing: Tyler Higbee, one of the best receiving tight ends in all of football. Knee injury, physically unable to perform. List to start. We're running out Colby Parkinson. That's a huge hit to this offense. There isn't a ton of depth behind Kyron Williams. I know they drafted Blake Corum. I mentioned Boston Scott. They have Ronnie Rivers, but those are 2 guys that are going to have to learn this offense, and Ronnie Rivers, who played sparingly. So Do we believe that Blake Corum is the change of pace back? Hopefully for himself and his sake he is. But I think that they're going to rely a lot on heavy on Kyron Williams, especially early on in this season, especially looking at the way that their schedule opens at Detroit, at Arizona, San Francisco, at Chicago, Green Bay, all before the bye week. And they have an early bye week. So early bye weeks and quarterbacks with bad arms probably don't go well. Yeah. So hopefully the first couple weeks of the season, it's heavy on the Kyron Williams show to make sure that Matt Stafford's arm doesn't fall off before the bye week.
No, I mean, listen, there's hardly a lot I can add to that sheds any more light. I appreciate you adding a bit more confidence to the running game than I had. But you know what? Let's get to it, man. What you got for the Rams?
So like I said, that front five is a pretty daunting task. I feel like if they get to that bye week at over 500 coming out of it, they have Vegas, Minnesota, at Seattle the next three. They can string together some wins there. I'm probably going to go on the high end here for the Rams. Give me 10-7, and I don't think Stafford misses much time, if any.
I appreciate your confidence. I'm just not there. 6-11 for the Rams. 2-4 in the division. I think they get swept by the Niners and split the other two. Or maybe even they get to 2-4 the hard way, sweep the Cards, and then get swept by the Seahawks. This division can get so quirky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I have them going 2-4 in the NFC West, 2-2 facing the NFC North. I'm with you. I think they make noise against the Vikings. And if everything works out, the Bears, I think that could be interesting. And then 1-3 against the AFC East. I don't see them even beating a weekend to Buffalo. Maybe that's a me problem. And then the remaining games are the Eagles, Raiders, and Saints. Because they're playing the Saints as late as they are in the season, I got them dropping the Saints in an Admiral Akbar style game. I don't know that it's a true trap game, but you see where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I got 6-11 for the Rams. I am not optimistic, especially trying to replace Aaron Charles Rodgers. So, speaking
Donald.
of yes, thank you. Habit. There you go. Aaron Charles, Donald. Injured quarterbacks were in the air. That's what happened. Anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
But with the Seattle Seahawks next on the list here, this is the team that I find the most confusing. And I may even still have Lee Vowell on the show as an emergency episode. He was going to be on tonight, had some family issues, prayers and hopes to with him and support to him, obviously. But going back to football with it here, it's the Seahawks roster is so strange because I'll look at places and go, oh, yeah. And there's other places I sound like the guy from Avengers when he first sees Star-Lord. Who? So, for me, again, this all rides on Geno Smith. I have mixed emotions about that. I don't hate it, but I'm certainly not necessarily going to claim them world beaters because of it. They're and then what? Jamal Adams recently getting moved, but how successful that experiment even was is a whole other question. Their front just does not generally intimidate me. I did like that they drafted Byron Murphy, but I mean, he ain't an answer like that, And then the receiver core, again, this is a group with another good receiver core, TK Metcalf. And that group, again, not the best in the NFL, but certainly formidable. You cannot underestimate them. Charbonnet and company as the running backs. I dig it. Again, not overwhelming, but they kind of meet the bar, so to speak. Kenneth Walker, of course, also being in that mix. Guys that I generally kind of like. The defense, again, this is kind of a theme for me. The defense for this group, this doesn't excite me. I do not get intimidated enough to think they stop anybody on a regular basis anyway. What would you add here, bud?
Well, life after Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll out. Who's their coach now? I don't even know off the top of my head. My brain stopped working.
Doesn't that tell you everything right there when the question is, who's the coach again? What?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I look at it is it's the same thing that I mentioned. Learning new schemes and learning new offenses and things along those lines. Those are all questions that I think have to be asked here. And that's why I might be a little bit further down on Seattle right now this season. But I don't think that this is a full like implode. New head coaches, Mike Old MacDonald.
Yeah. Well, you say that he's kind of new McDonald to being a head coach in the NFL, though he did spend time in the Ravens staff. This is one of the guys that Jim Harbaugh
in Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I went. With Jim Harbaugh handpicked from his brother to come to Michigan to coordinate that squad. But anyways, continue.
So looking at it, obviously, like you mentioned, Byron Murphy, the D tackle from Texas, was their number 1 pick. They traded their number 2, their second round pick. But I look at it from this perspective when looking at them. Zach, I'll have a glass of Chardonnay, and Kenneth Walker. They're going to have to take the pressure off of Geno Smith. Geno Smith 2 years ago, comeback player of the year, fantastic. And then reality came back and they figured out that it was still Geno Smith playing quarterback last year. And I know he got hurt, and I know that there were some question marks behind him, looking at you, Drew Lock. But they fixed the question mark by bringing in Sam Howell.
By adding another question mark. Let's call it.
I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
Improvement over Drew Lock, yes. That far? No, I don't think so.
But it's still an ACC quarterback. That's a loss. I'm just out there.
I mean, PJ Walker is still on the depth chart. Obviously, the bright spot of this offense has to be the wide receivers: DK, Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba coming into his second year. But after the 3 of them, Laviska Shenault, Jake Bobo, and D. Eskridge, Noah Fant, the starting tight end.
If I could tell you the number of passes I've personally watched Laviska Shenault drop
over
Jaguar, like crazy.
I'll take the over.
Yeah, facts.
Whatever number you want to put on there, I'll take the over. It doesn't matter.
1 million passes. Over. Okay.
The offensive line, it looks improved. It does. Obviously, we'll see how that goes. Byron Murphy, like we mentioned, but this is not the defense that it's been in the past. I still think the defense is going to be good. I don't think the defense is going to be great. I think when you look at this Seattle team, the defense is going to be where the questions rely, and that quarterback, because I don't necessarily know that Geno Smith is the answer. Does that mean that they're looking to potentially trade for someone? Maybe. Does that mean that they're going to be on the clock for a quarterback in the draft? Quinn Ewers, those guys. Possibly. I don't know what assets they have to potentially move up, because I don't think a team that I have sitting around the 500 mark is going to be in a predicament to draft one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks going in next year's class, with both Las Vegas and probably the Giants looking at a quarterback, if I had to guess, because I don't believe in Danny Dimes, because I'm not Ernest E.J. Christian.
I mean, Ernest E.J. Christian doesn't even believe in Danny Dimes, and he's a Cowboys fan that wants him to stay there so the Giants, can help the Cowboys win, right?
Correct.
Enough about him.
But I think Zach Charbonnet is going to play a bigger role in this offense this year to try to maybe keep Kenneth Walker on the field. So the goal here is going to be, I think, control the clock, game management, and not make Geno Smith have to make down by 10 with 3 minute left drives to see if they can win late games. If I'm looking at it from that perspective, if they can make that work, awesome. But I think that there are still some questions that need to be answered for this team moving forward.
Yeah, they're that same kind of second tier team. I mean, I can't put it any different than that. And then listen, I'll lead it off this time. They'll threaten playoffs in that weak conference. But at day's end, I still have them 8 wins. I see them splitting in their division, splitting the NFC North, going 1-3 against. I'm high on the AFC East apparently, and 2-1.
You could have just said that you were high.
Well, no, I can't. Listen, I'm
You
also,
could've.
and that would be inaccurate because, like, listen, you hear my voice. I'm not smoking right now. What you doing?
I mean, you're that high on the NFC East.
I see what you
AFC
did.
East.
Close enough.
And the East.
We don't
I'm
know
going west.
we don't know what I am on the NFC East because you guys did that division without me, and because I was in Greece, messing myself up. But anyways,
I had to get double teamed by the Nice brothers. One of them going 14-3, and the other one going 7-10, and trading Dak Prescott at the trade deadline.
yeah, there's some homerism in there that's very confusing.
No, really? Hold on. There was some homerism going on.
Yeah.
You're asking the one guy who doesn't root for a team that covered a team in that division.
There's a reason I picked you to do these other ones, is what I'm saying, bro. But anyways, 8-9. What? And then 2-1 in the trio for Falcons. Yes, I'm picking the Fraud Cons to win. Broncos and Giants. Go ahead, Bern.
Kirk Coupins?
Man, listen, that's a lot of weapons, but I still think that Michael Penix will go up and put on a show. I think they play in Washington, do they? I might be wrong about that part.
No, they play in Atlanta.
Damn, but that would be awesome if that was true. And it's just
that would have been.
Okay. You get it.
Yeah. I got him at 9-8.
You're obviously wrong.
That's fine. That's fine. Honestly, there's a world where I could see this team being 3-0 going into playing at Detroit week 4. Denver at New England. I think I know West Coast team going east. Cool. I'm playing quarterback for New England that week. Don't worry, guys. And Miami coming across country. We'll see how Tua responds to that. Because I'm not the Tua, the Huck Tua guy here.
Stop it.
Well, I'm sorry,
because
not a big Tua guy.
Because you're talking about the Seahawks, it just makes it worse. That's what I'm.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, but the rest of this schedule, I mean, you're looking at Minnesota, Chicago, LA to close out the year. They get the San Francisco games out of the way early, week 6 and week 11, and that week 11 game is coming off of their bye week.
Come and get your yeah.
So I mean, I think the real question here is going to be over under amount of games that Geno Smith actually plays quarterback this year for the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
And I'm going to set it at like 11.5.
I'll take the over, but only because I think the answer is 12.
Makes sense.
I don't. I'm that confident in myself. What can I say, Mikey Bern? But yeah, let's wrap it up. The San Francisco 49ers, of course. Listen, I did not open with this division because, as it is one of, in my opinion, the more predictable ones. I wanted to put a couple weeks on it. Surely they'll have Brandon Ayuk figured out by now. They don't. Okay, one ready for that. But I feel like the Niners without Ayuk are just as dangerous. They may not be better per se. I don't know that they have a guy on the roster that can necessarily, go be Ayuk, but I do feel like there's an element of the system contributing to Ayuk's success because defenses are spread so thin covering this, guys. Is that what you think?
Oh, yeah. I think they, knowing who they have to defend in Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo, Juszczyk out of the backfield. You don't need necessarily 3 or 4 great wide receivers. You don't need a Jackson Smith and Jigba. You don't need a Tyler Boyd. You don't need one of the top tier number 3 wide receivers because you got a top 5 tight end. you got a above average quarterback who can get them the football effectively and quickly. Obviously, you have the best pass catching running back in all of football in Christian McCaffrey. So I think the offense is built for what Brock Purdy does. And I think it's getting the ball out of Brock's hand quickly and letting the playmakers make plays.
Funny story, yeah.
That may not be the same for Brandon Ayuk if he goes to insert random team here. Not that I know who's really having conversation with San Francisco about his services. But if there's teams, and I saw a really bad tweet today that said something about what if it was Higgins for Ayuk straight up, and I said no.
How about no?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I a ton of money. That's trading one problem for another.
I mean, it feels like it's just trading a headache for a headache at this point. I mean, if I'm Cincinnati, I'm going with the guy who knows my offense. If you're in a predicament where, depending on what you want back for him, I mean, a team like Washington makes sense because you could probably get draft picks that are going to be upper part of rounds. I don't necessarily know that you're going to get more than one first round draft pick for him if you even get a first rounder for him, because obviously the contract situation being what it is. But I think the real issue here is that this is now dragged on to July 24th, and we are 6 weeks away from meaningful football games.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong, but I think this falls into the conversation with the Josh Hines Allens. Yeah, you got to say Hines now, and the Lamar Demetrius Jacksons. In that, there's an element of a game of chicken being played here, right? I mean, hell, Deebo Samuel did this with the Niners however many years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really think if the Niners had the space, they would pay him what he's asking for. The problem is Deebo Samuel is asking for quarterback money for what I would make an argument where he is the number 2 weapon on the offense. Maybe he's WR1, and that's fine, but McCaffrey and Kittle run that show, right? So how about no? Not to even talk about like other wide receiver 2s that are asking for that same kind of money. It's amazing to me. I'm not mad for them asking for it. It's just a hell of a note that we're getting to that point. Meanwhile, we're looking at running backs being in a paid drought. Hey, y'all need the NFL, leave the NFL alone and talk to these receivers, man. Anyways.
So would you, and as the Niner fan here, I'll pin this back to you. If Ayuk does not play a snap for the San Francisco 49ers, who do you trade him to, and what do you want back for him?
I mean, at this juncture, no less than a second, but I don't know that you're going to get that at this point, right? Because we're this far along.
So, and I'm just going to use the Commanders as an example.
Okay.
Jahan Dotson and a 3rd round draft pick for Brandon Ayuk.
I wouldn't dislike it. Because part of it too is and I don't know how real that there's an actual malcontent or how much of this is just negotiating through the public arena like players do in this day and age. But bottom line for me is Eric Armstead being at the point as he is as an injury prone, air quotes, player who they shipped to Jacksonville and they picked him up at a discount is a bigger loss to the Niners for allowing for that gap in the middle on the defensive line than Ayuk is. So
I would agree with that.
There are Dotson's interesting, like you mentioned there. There are a number of names where someone was like this in a 3rd or a 3rd day pick. Like if someone said to me, T. Higgins in a 3rd day pick, done. Again, you're trading one headache for another, but I'd be intrigued. I'd listen, right? If somehow another, well, it wouldn't be Calvin Ridley because he wanted too much money. But I think that's the issue. The ability to trade with a contract that will fit this puzzle piece is problematic. I think, and the Niners are listen, the Niners have already asked for players to play on their contract. Please see the Jimmy Garoppolo situation where they made it to the not to the Super Bowl, but should have made it to the Super Bowl. I don't give a damn what your dumbass Eagles fans said last week on my show, looking like a pair of idiots. But I said what I said. But yeah, as a quick aside, get over it, Eagles fans. You would have lost the game. You barely won until the fourth quarter with Christian McCaffrey at freaking quarterback. How ignorant can Eagles fans be? It blows my mind. Anyways,
Is that a question that you're asking out loud?
Shouts to Matt Muehlheisen and the evil twin Sean. Anyways, it blows my mind. Anyways, so I can't get past. I've never been a big Ayuk guy. I've always appreciated him. I always thought he improved. I thought he came into his role nicely. But if this is all really about him having the issue of not enough targets in the Super Bowl, buddy, that's not going away. This is a Shanahan offense, man. And by the way, side note, one play away essentially from beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I don't know. Anyways, but Mikey Bern, tell the world.
I think that this team rolls in the division. I think the question marks of losing Randy Gregory, Chase Young, and Javon Kinlaw are questions that the Niners coming out of this are going to have to figure out. Obviously, the long-term health of Senior Bosa would help drop all of those. But I look at it from this regards when I look at this team. They've built the offense the most effective way possible for Brock Purdy. I don't see anybody in this division giving them really a shot for their money, at least not for the next couple seasons. Obviously, this team is they're not the favorite in the NFC, they're second behind probably Philadelphia.
I would argue that's Detroit, yeah.
I was going to say with Detroit in the conversation. So I look at it from this regard. Anything less than a NFC title game appearance, I feel like would feel like a down year for this team.
Sure.
I have them winning 13 games. It could be a lot more. This team could be a 14 or 15 win team. The schedule really in itself, obviously after the week 1 game against the Jets, where they're at home, winnable games against Minnesota, LA. They're going to roll New England. They're going to roll Arizona. That week 7 game against Kansas City, the 425 game, and then the following week, the home game against Dallas. They get both of those teams at home. The November game against Green Bay on the road, that's a question mark. But then that back end of that schedule gets really comfortable if this team is healthy. Give me the Niners to roll in this division, and I don't necessarily think it's all that close.
Yeah, I got 14. I'm with you. I think they lose at least one in each division they play in outright because of week 18, like we mentioned with the Cardinals earlier. I'm pretty sure I got the Lions beating the Niners in week 17 in the North, which could have seeding implications, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And the team I have Miami beating them. Just because in that. Go ahead.
If there's a team in the East that could beat them, it would be Miami because of the firepower offensively that Miami has.
Surely, and for me, it's losing Armstead in the middle to attack. Now, granted, but Kyle, the Dolphins have no offensive line. I understand that, but Mike McDonald versus Kyle Shanahan in a coach off is fascinating to me. A.B. I think there's enough there on offense to spread the Niners out. And if they get into a shootout, you're telling me Tua and that group versus Brock? No disrespect to Brock Purdy, but that ain't way. If the Niners control that game on the ground and prevent Miami getting hot, obviously they'd win, I think. But I'm saying 3-1 nonetheless in AFC East. And as for favorable first place schedules go, their 3 bonus games, air quotes, are the Bucks, Cowboys, and Chiefs. I still think they might even win that Chiefs game, but whatever. Let's say they don't. I'm not officially counting in a win. Matter of fact, you know what? I am, but let me go back to 13-4. I'll make that my official and say the Chiefs win that game. I don't want to be too big a air quotes homer. But the Bucks and Cowboys, yeah, right. But the Bucks and Cowboys are the other 2 first place scheduled games. Completely unintimidating to me. So yeah,
I think I don't necessarily know that you should be worried about either one of those teams.
my point exactly. So I think this is an incredibly friendly schedule for the 49ers. Thus, 13-4, clear champions. As you see here by the marks I have, they're up what 4 or 5 games on the Seahawks. So yeah, I think we're of one mind with just a couple games different on these final 2 teams. But with that in mind, Mikey Bern, tell the world.
You can follow me on Twitter at They Call Me Bern. You can listen to me talk professional wrestling on the Take 3 Wrestling podcast with our good friend Big Jim. You can hear me talk the off-season episodes of Huddle Up over at the Huddle Up feed, Huddle Up Incorporated on all of the social medias. You can follow Big Jim. The link is there at Big Jim Sports. Special shout out to him. Ding. Yeah, that's all I got, man. It was a lot of fun. This is my 6th team covered so far. And I still have my team to go.
That's happening.
Plus, I'm probably standing in the batter's box just in case something else occurs. So, I'm always ready.
There has been a lot of calamity, Mikey Bern. You are, in fact, not wrong on this fact. Matter of fact, excuse me, let me give the people what they want and check the dates here. Next week is the NFC South. Maybe I will give you a call. No,
give me enough heads up on who I'm going to try to cover.
Yeah, I always do, man. No, but fantastic work all the way around by you. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the Jaguars on SI. You better do that, damn it, because I wrote about Tyson Campbell's extension and got to talk to him at the first day of Jaguars camp. That's why my throat sounds like this. That and going to Greece and getting the sun draining life out of me. No, I had a great time in Greece, obviously. But yeah, check out Jaguars on SI, of course. My work with the Black and Gold Banneret, and of course, the Night Shift podcast, and the 3-point conversion, as well as A7B in sports, and of course, the Duval Dive. The aforementioned Jaguars will be a topic of discussion, in particular to training camp. Me and Travis Holmes up Big Cat Country, like I said. We'll break that down for you. And hey, go to the Duval Dive YouTube channel and check out our quick hits day 1 video. And hey, subscribe to that beast while you're there. Just throwing it out there. But of course, for my friend Mikey the Bern, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. Man, you may be going west, but I'll leave it at here. Anyway, well, actually, before we go, let me hit a couple questions here. I'm seeing is it the Seahawks best team in winning cross coast games? Yeah, I think there is actually a stat that backs that. Here it's at there. Will Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze combo be something to be worried about, and how soon? I think that's a great question, John. That answer is coming when I do the NFC North, and we can ask my good friend Raphael Haynes of the 3-point conversion about that. So yeah, that'll be in a couple weeks, so look out for that. I'll get back to you on how soon, but I think that'll be interesting, especially with that former Charger guy on the other side, Keenan Allen. He's pretty good.
I mean, they still have DJ Moore there as well.
Yeah, agreed. 49ers versus Seahawks matchup with the throwback uniforms. Will that have any effect on the game? No.
Is Rick Meyer playing quarterback for the Seahawks?
Is Rick Meyer playing? Is Tim Rattay playing quarterback for? No, that's not far enough back.
Yeah, I was going to say, how far back are we going to go?
Gio Carmazzi playing quarterback for? There you go. There's a drop for you. So yeah, for Mikey Bern, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game, and until next time, everyone, class. Oh no, I hit the wrong button. Here we go. Class Dismissed.